I think I'm interested in that new Nikon Z7. You mean Nikon Z7? Come on, you know which camera I'm talking about. Sure, isn't your Fuji camera good enough for you? Yeah, my Fuji cameras are fine, but they are 24 megapixel, 26 megapixel. I want something that has more megapixel. For what? For printing, of course. I want to make huge prints with 300 dpi. It's gonna be perfect. Yeah, but it also depends on the viewing distance. If you make large prints, then people tend to stand further back. So 300 dpi in this case is not that important. Actually, you can print any size you want out of a 8 megapixel file. Do you know that? I think I've heard of that before, but I'm not sure if that's true. Look at all those 40, 50 megapixel cameras. They're so expensive. They must be better. Come on, it's just a marketing gimmick. You don't need those. Really? Interesting. Oh, hey, you are here. Let me ask you, how many megapixels do I need to make huge prints? I think I'm gonna do a test. Yes, I'm gonna do a test. This is it. This is it. I made a print. Can you see me now? I made a 30 by 40 inch print. Huge print. This is the largest print I have ever made. And I'm gonna roll this up so I can talk. Alright guys, as you can see, I made a 30 inch by 40 inch huge print, and it is the largest print I have ever made. This print is from a 20 megapixel file captured with my Fuji X-T2 in San Diego. If you are interested in the behind the scenes story, check out this vlog right here or in the description below. My Fuji X-T2 has 24 megapixel full resolution, but that is 3:2 aspect ratio, and this print is actually 4:3 aspect ratio, so I actually cropped in a little bit. So today we will look at this print closely and see if a 20 megapixel file holds up when it is printed this big. Alright, let's jump into the video. The method I'm gonna use for this test is super straightforward. Basically what I'm gonna do is to look at the print at different viewing distance and decide if the print looks good at each viewing distance. In order to show you that, I actually set up my camera to capture a footage at each viewing distance. The lens I use is Fuji 35mm f2 because it's equivalent to somewhere around 50mm on full frame, which is close to what human eye sees. And the viewing distance, the first distance is 15 inch away from the print, and then 30 inch away from the print, and then 45 inch away from the print, and then 60 inch away from the print. And then I move the camera further back until I can have the entire print fit into the frame. Now, let's look at the result. Actually, before we look at the results, I just want to show you what 15 inch look like. Let's see. Now, this is 15 inch. This is 15 inch. So the viewing distance is about like that. Let me see. Currently, the distance between my monitor to my eye is about 25 inch. So my monitor is right here, and it's 25 inch away from my eyes. And the 15 inch is right about here. So it's very close to the print. All right, so that's the first viewing distance. Now let's look at the result.
Nothing really matters if you're not mine right here, right now. And even if the world ends, then I'll be fine. No fear, no doubt. I know a place that sneak away. Leave the pain, I'll stay with you. Let me hold you, close your eyes. We'll be reaching paradise. Ooh. I don't even really know your name.
What the camera captures matches what I see with my eyes pretty good. At 15-inch viewing distance, the print does look soft. But again, 15-inch is a short viewing distance considering the size of this print. You are only looking at a tiny little portion of the entire print. If you stack back to 30-inch and the print becomes much sharper, the details becomes much nicer, and overall at 30-inch, I think the print looks pretty good already. If you step back to 45-inch or 60-inch or even further, I think the print just looks good, and overall I don't think you can tell any difference in terms of the sharpness. You probably can tell if it is a 20 megapixel file or 40 megapixel file or 60 megapixel file. I think they probably just look the same. Now, if you have a high megapixel camera, does it help? Yes, it definitely does, but it might not be as much as you think. For example, for this 30-inch by 40-inch print, it's definitely gonna help at 15-inch viewing distance when you look at the print super closely. The more megapixel it has, the better the details are rendered and the sharper the print will look. If you step back a little bit, then the advantage of using a high megapixel file decreases. And if you step back even further, then the advantage of using a high megapixel file decreases even further. But let me say this, the purpose of this video is not to convince you that you don't need a high megapixel camera. The purpose of this video is to explain this to you to help you decide if you need a high megapixel camera. I think it boils down to two questions. The first question is if you make large prints, of course, and the second question is what viewing distance you expect people to look at your prints. If you make large prints and you expect people to look at your prints super closely, then in that case, I think you definitely need a high megapixel camera. Higher, better. If you make large prints, but you don't expect people to look at your prints at a very close viewing distance, then you are probably gonna be fine with a 24 megapixel camera. Now let's talk about 300 dpi, or sometimes you hear people say 300 ppi. dpi stands for dots per inch, ppi stands for pixel per inch. 300 dpi is a standard mostly for magazines when you look at the photos super closely, but the photos are tiny compared to large prints. For example, for a 8-inch by 10-inch photo, let's calculate how many megapixels do you need to make 8-inch by 10-inch using 300 dpi. The short edge is 8-inch times 300 dpi, which is 2400, and then the long edge is 10-inch times 300 dpi, which is 3000, and then 2400 times 3000 is 7.2 million. So you need 7.2 megapixel to make a 8-inch by 10-inch photo using 300 dpi. That's probably why sometimes you hear people say all you need is a 8 megapixel camera. Again, this standard is for photos for magazines, newspapers, where you look at the photos super closely. If you step back, then the DPI you need dramatically decreases. Now, if you strictly follow 300 dpi, then let's calculate how many megapixel do you need to print 30-inch by 40-inch. The 30-inch edge times 300 dpi is 9,000, and then 40 times 300 is 12,000. So 9,000 times 12,000, then you need 108 megapixel. You know, even if you have a full-frame camera, it's not going to give you 300 dpi when you print 30-inch by 40-inch. Do you know what's the DPI for my 30-inch by 40-inch test print? It was only 133 DPI. Alright, my suggestion to you, if you have a 16 megapixel camera, a 20 megapixel camera, 24 megapixel, whenever you are making a print, just forget about DPI. At this point, I believe someone would say that a high megapixel camera can give you better capability to crop, and that's definitely true. I totally agree with that. But it might not be the only option for you. You can consider spending the money to get a high megapixel camera body, or you can consider spending the money to buy a longer lens. There's nothing wrong with either way, so you need to evaluate what you need and make the best decision for yourself. Now, let me say this again. The purpose of this video is not to convince you that you don't need a high megapixel camera. The purpose of this video is to help you decide if or why you need a high megapixel camera. If you search this question on the internet, you probably will find a lot of people's comments contradictory to each other. I think the best thing is to make a test and see for yourself. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please click on the thumbs up button below. And if you are the first time on my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. Also, if you are interested in Capture 112, Luminar 3, or Aurora HDR 2019, check out the links in the description below. You can make a purchase using those links. There's no additional cost to you, but you can support my YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. Alright guys, have a fantastic 2019 and hope to see you next time.